Hello guys, so this is going to be my first video breaking down on Draftkings this NBA slate for January 6th, 2018. So I'm going to go by position. I'll talk about some of the guys that I like and then some of the guys that I don't really like and why I do think that way. So we'll start with point guard, and with players that are eligible for positions, I'll talk about them at their real positions. So like Chris Paul, I'll talk about him at point guard and not shooting guard, so that way that I don't repeat them. So for point guard, at the top it's Chris Paul, 10K against Detroit. So obviously James Harden's going to be out and all the usage is going to go to Chris Paul, so everything on the offensive end is going to be through him, so he should see a lot of the ball and a lot of production his way. But I do think at 10K though, it is getting pretty pricey, so for me, I'm probably going to go elsewhere at point guard. So Chris Paul, definitely I think as a cash game play is definitely viable, because I think he can definitely get you the 50 points to hit value, but I feel that other point guards can definitely exceed their value. So I'll probably be off of Chris Paul. And then next there's John Wall, 8,700, going up against Milwaukee. And Eric Bledsoe has been really struggling defensively recently, but also John Wall on a back-to-back. So he's come back from injury for I think 2-3 weeks now, and on the back-to-backs though recently, he's been either limited or he just hasn't played as well. So I think there's a little bit of concern, but I think he should be fine because he's been back and he's been playing 30 plus 40 minutes even. So I think he's definitely a good play, but just kind of note that there's I would say a small chance that he doesn't play as well as we think he will. And then next up, Chris Dunn. So he had a great game tonight. I think he ended up with 56.25. He gets Indy, so Darren Collison defense. Collison is not that bad of a defender, but obviously Chris Dunn, he's on a back-to-back, so maybe his minutes could be a little bit less than what they were tonight. But if you go through Chris Dunn's game log, on back-to-backs, so against Portland, he still played a terrific game, and then against New York, that was a great game too. His minutes are pretty consistent, 30s, low, mid-30s, so I definitely think Chris Dunn's pretty safe. And then moving on, Eric Bledsoe. So I think at 7,000, he's priced pretty accurately. If you look through his last matchup against Washington, it was in November, so it's not on the game log, but I think he got around 30 Draftkings points, and so a lot of the points though were coming from steals. So he ended up with 35.75, and he had 6 steals. So a lot of the production that Bledsoe had in their November game last matchup, it came from steals. So I think there's a little bit of concern that maybe Bledsoe does not have a good game. And also just to note that John Wall did play because it was in November, so Wall was starting at that point. So I think Bledsoe, definitely he can be an option, but probably not the safest one. And then next up there's Elfrid Payton, 6,700. So it's Cavs defense. Isaiah Thomas is going to be starting. So Payton does have a good matchup. He's at home. He plays well. A lot of the Orlando Magic team plays better at home. Cleveland, yeah, they get the boost with Isaiah in their starting lineup now, but I do think that Payton still will be able to put up good numbers against Isaiah. So Payton, good option. And then go down to Darren Collison at 5,900. So this is a play that it's contingent upon if Victor Oladipo plays. So if he doesn't, then I think Collison can be a good play because Chris Dunn, he's not that great of a defender, so I think Collison, he can take advantage of that, and especially if Oladipo's out, he gets the ball more and just more opportunity. And then at 4,500 we have De'Aaron Fox. So George Hill most likely will be out tomorrow, so I think Fox definitely at point guard. Jamal Murray is not that great of a defender. Fox should see 30 plus minutes probably, but I mean, sometimes we never know with Sacramento. Their rotation is a little bit inconsistent, so Fox could definitely not hit maybe 30 minutes, but I feel without George Hill and with Frank Mason out with a heel injury that Fox should be safe in regards to his minutes. And then Tyus Jones, 4,500. He hasn't been as good as what we would expect to, or what we would expect him to be playing at with Jeff Teague out, but he's a cheap starting point guard. At 4,500, you're getting a lot, and he's going to get Rajon Rondo defense. I fully expect that Tyus Jones probably can have a good game, especially with New Orleans, which they are kind of a sloppy team. They do turn the ball over a lot, and Tyus Jones, he's a thief. He gets a lot of steals, so at 4,500, I think with the amount of steals that he gets, he can definitely hit value and exceed it. And then final point guard play is Corey Joseph at 4,200. So this is another play that's contingent upon Victor Oladipo. So I think if Oladipo's out, Joseph definitely can pick up minutes at maybe at the shooting guard position with Collison. So I'll play a 2-point guard lineup. So I think Joseph could definitely be a good play, and especially the game log, he's been seeing 30 minutes, so he's been pretty consistent recently. Now, moving on to shooting guard. So, Victor Oladipo, he's currently questionable. If he plays and there's no minutes restriction for him, I think you just lock him in. Chicago does not defend shooting guards well, and I'm going to be all over this Victor Oladipo play tomorrow if he is playing without a restriction. And we all know what kind of player he is. He's got 70 plus upside, so definitely a good play. And then Jimmy Butler, 8,200. I think this is a good play. At center, we'll talk about Karl-Anthony Towns. Recently, are his two games against New Orleans, Towns has been in foul trouble against Cousins, so if you do believe in the foul trouble narrative, then you can definitely go Jimmy Butler because his usage will be way up without Towns on the floor. And even with Towns, though, I still like Butler. 8,200 is a really good price. He gets Drew Holiday defense, which Drew's not a bad defender, but he's way smaller than Jimmy. And then next, Bradley Beal, 7,800, Milwaukee. Chris Middleton, he's a good defender, but Bradley Beal at home, he's just been solid. He's been hot recently. His shot's been falling. I think this is a good play. Next, you have Chris Middleton, 6,900. I think this game will be pretty high scoring. Both teams are on a back-to-back, but these teams can definitely fill it up on the scoreboard. So I think Middleton at 6,900, which he has been around 7 plus K. So I think Middleton, good price tonight. And if you think this game can be very high scoring, Middleton definitely an option. And then next, there's Eric Gordon, 6,800 at Detroit. So Gordon's going to be starting, and his usage is way up without Harden. But my concern is the price. It's getting up there. And also Avery Bradley defense. We all know Bradley's a tremendous defender, so I think he could definitely limit Gordon a bit. Next up, 6,400, Gary Harris. He's one of the Denver players that are good on the road. Him, and then we'll get into the other guys later. Just Denver, they play well at home. They're going to be away. Gary Harris usually is still pretty consistent away. Evan Fournier, 6,200. He's gonna be at home where obviously all the Magic players play better, and Cleveland does not defend the shooting guard position well, so I think Fournier can definitely have a good game. And then 5,300, Justin Holiday. I think if Victor Oladipo doesn't play, that we can definitely look at Holiday, because Oladipo's defense is pretty good, and Holiday he takes a lot of shots, he gets a lot of real points, so 5,300 is a good price for Holiday. And then next we have Mario Hezonja, 4,900. If Jonathan Simmons is out, Hezonja should start and should see around 30 minutes. Cleveland, we know Cleveland as not a really solid defensive team, so I think Hezonja could definitely see a lot of open threes, and he can definitely hit and exceed value. And then we get to more of the value picks. At 3,800, Garrett Temple. So there's no Fox, there's no Mason. Garrett Temple should see a lot of minutes, and doesn't matter if it's going to be a blowout or not. Garrett Temple should see minutes, and 3,800, he really doesn't need to do a whole lot, so he's a nice punt play. And then last shooting guard option, Jamal Crawford. He's a cheap option, and I think this game's going to be high scoring as well, so Jamal Crawford, 3,700, he's just a big time scorer. Even at his age, he'll definitely score the ball, and he can definitely get 20 real points, so just like that, he's going to hit value. Okay, and small forward, I'm not going to be on LeBron actually, because I think with Isaiah back and Kevin Love expected to play, that LeBron's usage will be a little low, and at 11.6, I don't really want to pay for that. But obviously, LeBron's LeBron, so if you think that maybe he'll be low owned, maybe play him in a GPP. Other options, Giannis, 10.5. It's a good price for Giannis, 10.5 for the type of player that he is. Even with, after the Bledsoe trade, Giannis is still going to be solid. He's an all-star MVP conversation, and I like him even more if Otto Porter is not going to play. He got hurt tonight, so Giannis, if he does end up seeing maybe Kelly Oubre on him, I think Giannis is definitely in a good spot. And we're going to go to Lance Stevenson at 5,800. Another, Oladipo play. So if Oladipo's out, I think you definitely consider Lance. If he's going to start at shooting guard, Chicago, they can't defend shooting guards, Lance is a good play. So it's pretty much shooting guard, you take Lance or Oladipo. And then next up, you have Will Barton at 5,700. He's another one of those Denver players that plays well on the road. Just look at the recent game log. He's hit 40 against Minnesota, which they're not that great of a defensive team, but that's just one game. And, if you look through all those other games, he gets a lot of minutes, and he's a bench player, but he'll get run if it's a close game. He'll get run without, even if it's a blowout. So I think Will Barton, 5,700, good price. So definitely somebody that I think I'll probably have in my lineups. Next up, Gerald Green, 5,100. This guy lit it up last game, and he's been lining it up recently after he signed his contract. He just shoots. He shoots a lot of threes. He makes them. They're contested, but he just makes a lot of them. And we don't know how. I don't know how. He just does it. And just 15 threes out of his 16 shots. That's crazy. And he's shooting 50+% from three. It's a small sample size, but that's just outrageous. And Houston's going to need a scoring with Harden out. So I like Gerald Green. And definitely, if Houston ends up taking this one, blowing them out, Green's going to get run. So Green's a really good option, even with that 1K price increase. Next, there's Trevor Ariza. Gerald Green, he has been playing a lot of minutes. Ariza did get hurt a little. He missed a little bit of time last game, and maybe that affected his shot. He did not have a good game last game against Golden State. 1 for 8. He still gets 30 plus, even 40 plus minutes a night. So I like him. I think at 4,800, that's a huge price drop. He can definitely hit value and exceed it. So Trevor Ariza is a good option. And then last, Kelly Oubre. If Porter's out, Oubre, good value pick, 4,300. That's value that opens up, and I think definitely Oubre should get a lot of ownership if Porter is ruled out. So, yeah, that's it for small forward. So, on the power forward, I think at the top, you definitely have to consider Anthony Davis. And Anthony Davis, he's a 4-digit price tonight against Minnesota. Taj Gibson, he's smaller, he's old, he can't keep up with Anthony Davis's athleticism. So I think Davis, 9,900, he can maybe get 60 points tonight. Next up, Aaron Gordon. He's at home. He plays a lot better at home. He has 50, maybe even 60 point upside. 8K, it does seem a little pricey, but he can definitely hit value and exceed it. So Gordon, he's so athletic. Crowder's not going to be able to stay with him. So Gordon, great play. And then next, Nikola Mirotic and Lauri Markkanen. So Mirotic, he gets a lot of usage when he does come off the bench, but he usually does get less minutes than Lauri Markkanen. So I like them both because Indiana, they're not good against the power forward position. But it's going to be a little tricky to pick between Mirotic and Markkanen. I just like them both. I think you just take either one. If I do end up needing a center, then I'll definitely go with Mirotic because he's center eligible. But if we're just looking at power forwards, I think I do still lean Mirotic because he hits value and exceeds it. He's just playing really well. So I like Mirotic a little bit more than Markkanen, but I like them both. Next, Tobias Harris. I don't really like rostering Tobias, but I think at 6,100, Pistons at home, where Harris does play better, if Detroit's gonna keep this game close, Tobias Harris has to do a lot of the scoring. So if you believe this game will be close and Detroit coming off a blowout tonight, Detroit's gonna be back at home. They probably don't want to get blown out again. If you think this game's gonna be close, Tobias should get a lot of the scoring. Next, Zach Randolph, 6K. He's just Mr. Consistent. He gets a lot of usage when he's on the court. Doesn't get a lot of minutes, but he makes the most of them. So 6K against Denver. He should be starting as center, actually. But he really is a power forward, so that's why I put him here. And yeah, Jokic is big, and he'll definitely be tough for Randolph to handle on the offensive end, but Jokic is not that great of a defender yet, so Zebo should still have a good game. Next, Trey Lyles, 5,600. He's just such a big part of the Denver bench. I've been watching Denver games, and he's a big part. It's a lot of Will Barton and Trey Lyles on the bench. Trey Lyles is he's been really good. He's been getting double-doubles recently, just his game log. The points and the rebounds that he gets off the bench, it's really crazy. And even at 5,600, a price increase, he's still good. And especially if you think this is going to be a blowout, Trey Lyles, more run, more points. So Trey Lyles, good option. And then Taj Gibson, 5,500. He should see a lot of minutes because really I think it's Taj Gibson, Towns, and then Gorgie Zhang who have to contend with the Twin Towers. So Gibson, 5,500, good price for him tonight. I think definitely he can hit value. Next, I'm going to look at Sabonis, 5,200. He's definitely coming off the bench, but he's definitely outplayed Thaddeus Young. So Thaddeus Young recently, he's just not been good. Definitely though, Sabonis recently, Indiana has been getting blown out, so he's seen more minutes. But even with that, he's just outplayed that. So I think Sabonis can still have a very productive game. Next, 4,700 is Markieff Morris. If Otto Porter is going to be out, I think he'll definitely see some more minutes. 4,700 against Milwaukee. He's a solid player. He rebounds well and he'll score. He's a little bit inconsistent on the scoring end and the other peripherals, but I like Markieff Morris. So good play at 4,700. Pretty nice price. 4,300, last option, power forward Mason Plumlee. Sacramento's just not good defensively. Mason Plumlee does a lot. He has a lot of these low-scoring games with the real points, like these totals where he gets like 9 and 8, but he's still able to produce in the other categories, so he hits value. He has a lot of blocks too, so definitely he can produce in other categories and hit value. Now we move on to center. So, DeMarcus Cousins at 10-8. He's really absolutely dominated Karl-Anthony Towns the 2 times that they played this year. Towns is a soft center, and he's not really that great defensively, so I think Cousins should dominate again. And then next, there's Karl-Anthony Towns. So, he's been in foul trouble against Cousins the past 2 games. Towns is going to be at home this time. 8,800 is a good price, but it's a back-to-back, and New Orleans, they've had their rest, so maybe we don't see Towns playing his best game, especially in a tough matchup. So there's some concern for that. And then next, Kevin Love, 7,700. The Magic are very bad at defense, and against the center position, even with Biyombo, who's a shot blocker, Kevin Love's gonna stretch that defense. And Love, he's questionable, but he's expected to play. So I think if Love doesn't have any restrictions, then yeah, Kevin Love's a good play. Next, 6,600 is Clint Capella. Without Harden, his usage goes up a lot. Drummond's not that great a defender. Yes, maybe he's not going to get as many rebounds, but Capella, 6,600 is a good price without Harden. So, good price, and I think he does end up still having a good game. And this is just an option. I think he'll get the minutes. Willie Cauley-Stein, 6,100. He'll probably need it to guard Jokic, so he should see a lot of minutes. But I'm not too sure about how he's gonna do about those minutes though. Next, John Henson, 4,700. I'll just pair him with Gortat. So they're going up against each other. They're both not that great of rebounding centers. Henson is more athletic. Gortat's pretty soft, so I think Henson could have a good game on the glass. And then with Gortat, the Bucks aren't a good defensive team. Yeah, I did just say that Henson could have a good game rebounding wise, but you look at Gortat, the pick and roll with John Wall, Gortat really excels in that. So I think Gortat could have a good game, and Henson's not that tremendous of a defender. He does block shots, but overall defensively, he's not that great. Next, 4,500, Robin Lopez. So he's a starting center. He gets minutes. He finishes games. 4,500 for a starting center against Indy. Miles Turner has not been good recently. He's really just disappeared. So Robin Lopez on a back-to-back. I do still like Robin Lopez at 4,500. He should hit value. Next, we go to value at Gorgie Zhang, 3,500. So I think this can be a very solid value play if, in fact, Karl-Anthony Towns does get into foul trouble. Even if he doesn't, he should be needed to play against Cousins and Davis. So Zhang should get a lot of minutes. And, of course, if Towns does get into foul trouble, if you play Zhang, you're in a good spot. So Zhang, 3,400. If he gets his minutes, he should hit 20, 30 Draftkings points with ease. And then Mahimi, 3,300. He just randomly gets minutes. Sometimes he gets the same amount of minutes as Gortat or even more. It's kind of weird, but it just randomly happens. So Mahimi, if you really need a punt, definitely 3,300. If you can't, but I just rather go to Zhang at 3,500 if you're gonna punt. And then for an extreme punt option at 3K, there's if I can find him, Thon Maker. This is just a very extreme punt play. I would not play this, but if you absolutely have to, 3K Thon Maker. He's been getting, he gets his minutes, but he doesn't do a lot with them because it's usually with Bledsoe, Middleton, or Giannis. Somebody's on the court, so they're gonna get all the usage when Thon's on the court. So Thon's not that great of a play, but if you really need a punt, 3K, you don't need a whole lot. So Thon could be an option, but as I said, I'm not gonna be on that. So I think tomorrow, definitely, as a recap, I will definitely look at Oladipo and then Jimmy Butler as my studs. And then definitely, if value does open up, you can look at Lance Stevenson and definitely, just look at what players are out and just plug in the value plays. And then Gorgie Zhang, as I mentioned, that's a good option. So I'll update with the other plays that I like at the end after this video, when we get closer to the lock, after all the injury news comes out and who's playing and not. So make sure to follow my Twitter, follow me on Twitter. I'll post my Twitter and everything in the description below. So